Let's talk about why Xilonen is going to be a must-pull character. To explain this idea, let's first discuss what exactly a must-pull character is, since most of you might think it's because the character is so overpowered that you need them in order to clear difficult content in the game. However, that isn't the case, as even today there are people that still clear Spiral Abyss with 36 stars using 4-star characters only. The true meaning of a must-pull character lies in their overall value as a character, aka how many new ways you can play, as well as how diverse they can be in all of your team building needs. This is exactly the reason why no DPS characters have ever been considered a must-pull by the community, since all a DPS does for the account is do lots of damage and you build around their kit to really flesh out the damage. Using Mualani as an example, her overall damage is some of the most insane numbers since New Valette, not to mention she's incredibly easy to build a team around. However, can you recall even one time someone has said she was a must-pull? I'm willing to bet you can't. That being said, listing off some current must-pulls in the game, we have Kazuha, Nahida, Farina, and even 4-star characters like Chevreuse and Kuki Shinobu. These characters all bring incredible value to any team you put them in, regardless of how invested in they are. So what does this have to do with Xilonen? Trust me, we're getting there. It's just vital that we understand what makes these must-pull characters so good. Looking at Kazuha, he not only has incredible grouping capabilities, but by giving him Elemental Mastery in the Viridescent set, he not only buffs your team, but simultaneously shreds the enemy resistance to whatever element he swirls, basically solidifying him as the best option as a support for any mono element team, and if used correctly, even for reaction based teams. The same thing goes with Nahida. If you remove all the numbers in Nahida's kit, like her Elemental Mastery buff and off-field damage, and only kept the insane amount of Dendro application she can provide, she still comes out as the best option for off-field Dendro application without a doubt, solidifying her as a must-pull character for any Dendro related teams. Then there's Farina, the most omnipotent character in the game, the must-pull of must-pulls. Farina is literally good in any team you put her in, just put her there and she performs. But if put into the right kind of team, one with a lot of healing involved, her burst's universal damage bonus is unmatched. She can even be paired up with the likes of Kazuha and Nahida, making the team even stronger. And lastly, Chevreuse and Kuki Shinobu. Both of these 4-star characters are the masters of their craft, that being Overload and Hyperbloom. Both these team comps can be built without these characters, but in most cases, or in all cases when it comes to Chevreuse, these teams get nowhere near their potential without them. So what do all these characters have in common? Well, each one of them is future-proof in what they do best. They'll always be a good character, and because of that, their value to your account is unmatched. So why do I think Xilonen is going to be so valuable to your account? Let's talk about how her kit works in a general sense. Since all numbers and factors are subject to change since she isn't released yet, this might not hold true, but if it does post-release, she is 100% a must-pull character for your account. So to start with, Xilonen's main point of value is that she will be capable of shredding every elemental resistance except Anemo and Dendro, apparently for 33% at max talent level. This means she's one of the only characters that can reduce Geo resistance right next to Zhongli's shield. Furthermore, the way this resistance shred works, she can shred multiple resistances at once, making her an amazing support for reaction-based teams like Vaporize and Melt. From my understanding, when she reaches maximum Night Soul points during her elemental skill, she will shred the resistances of surrounding enemies for every element on your team, not including herself. So if you have 2 Pyro and a Cryo, both Pyro and Cryo resistances will be reduced for 15 seconds. However, this interaction works differently if she is placed in a mono Geo team. It will still shred Geo resistance, but she'll also deal more Geo damage with her infused normal attacks during her skill. And her burst will react the same way, where in a non-Geo team, she'll do a burst of Geo damage and then heal the party over time. Or in a Geo team, she'll deal more bursts of Geo damage, essentially making Xilonen either a burst DPS and a shredder in a Geo team, or a healer and a shredder in an elemental team. I feel like I don't really need to say more about how valuable that makes her. But because she can use the Cindercity set as a Natlan character, she gets even more powerful. On top of shredding resistance and healing or dealing a ton of Geo damage, she can also buff the elements involved by 40%, which is absolutely insane. Now let's talk about all of the teams you can directly upgrade with Xilonen. Starting with the most recent team going around, Mualani Vaporize. In this team, you can replace whoever your healer is for Xilonen, and she can easily shred both Pyro and Hydro resistances, which is something Kazuha can struggle with, and his shred with Viridescent is only 10 seconds, where Xilonen's is 15 seconds, which is more than enough time for Mualani to take her turn. Additionally, you can also slot another Geo character like Albedo for Geo Resonance, really trying to bump up Mualani's numbers. Xilonen is easily a huge buff for Mualani teams, and will be a core part of her teams going forward. Xilonen is also a direct upgrade to one of the oldest teams, that being National. If running, let's say, Raiden National, You'll not only shred the resistances to Pyro, Electro, and Hydro, but with Cindercity and using Xilonen properly, you can definitely buff all 3 of those elements as well, making an old team that's still very competitive even more powerful. Even with Hu Tao, she's a massive upgrade. You can slip Xilonen in with Zhongli and Farina or Yelan, gaining Geo Resonance, absolutely deleting enemies, which is actually pretty insane since Hu Tao teams haven't seen a direct buff in a very long time. And of course Geo teams, finally a way to shred more Geo resistance while simultaneously buffing the element's damage as well. Just make sure to have at least one other element in your team to trigger Cindercity frequently. Something like Ito plus Yelan, Xingqiu, Beidou, or Shengling. Then finish the team off with Goro and Xilonen and you'll be busting heads. And lastly, I think it's worth noting that she's absolutely incredible with Navia teams, since they're both Geo characters that want to interact with other elements. Additionally, this gives Navia Geo Resonance, and then with Cindercity, this will buff her damage even further. I definitely think Xilonen is going to be the best in slot choice for Navia teams in the near future. As you can see, Xilonen is a huge buff to so many teams, and even more teams I haven't listed here. Primarily, she wants to stay away from Anemo and Dendro teams since Geo can't react with it, but other than that, if you put her in any other kind of team, she'll be amazing. So with all of this out of the way, I feel like it's pretty apparent that her value to your overall account is very strong, and she easily qualifies as a must-pull character, as she will definitely without a doubt bring value to all your teams to come for the foreseeable future. That being said, please like and subscribe if this helped you make a decision, and tell me in the comments, do you agree? Are you going to pull for Xilonen? And if not, tell me why. Is it an anticipation for Mavuika? Other than that, have a wonderful day. Until next time.